Hi everybody and welcome to the Flute Practice. Many of you have probably had to memorize the odd piece once in a while, and this can be a daunting task to say the very least, but there are some very kind of hands-on techniques we can use to memorize, so let's go check it out. Alright, so one of my kind of first techniques that I use when I'm trying to memorize a piece for the first time is working in very small sections. So I just take a phrase, maybe even just a bar at a time, not to do too much at once. Section by section, go through it. So start maybe at the beginning, maybe even at the end. Sometimes, we kind of neglect the end. You remember when you're performing this piece, you're going to get tired by the end, and actually that's the part you're going to need to know the most kind of securely. So one phrase. Maybe you want to look at your score, read the notes, and then see if you can play it back. And then if you need to repeat, maybe you forget a note or you're unsure, you do this several times until that one little phrase really sits in there. A technique you can use in addition to this, at the same time as this, or actually once you've memorized the whole piece, is to really go through each phrase and say the note names back. So really making sure that you actually know what's on that page. So I'll look at the music and put the music away and speak back, see if I can actually remember the note names and say the note names. This is such a great way to also solidify your memory. So maybe you have learned the piece from memory and you can kind of, wing it when you're feeling relaxed, but to really make sure it's in there, to really section by section, phrase by phrase, go through and say the note names. It's great. This is very challenging and it's incredibly mentally exhausting. So I really recommend you do this in short bursts. Please stop when your mind is tired. This is, it's just no point. And in fact, your best friend is going to be taking breaks and rest, which brings me to one of the most kind of vital elements of memorization, and that is sleep. You need to sleep. And this means that you need quite a lot of time to memorize. And also maybe if you've got very tricky passages, memorize them before you go to sleep at night. You lie in bed, last thing you do, you just go over some of those like really niggly bits that you get stuck on. Or maybe even if you're there already and you can really, in your head go through the entire piece with note names because you've memorized it that well, that is great. I know this feels like a lot of work, but I promise you it really pays off. So occasionally there are just those odd little bits that you just can't quite get them. Your best friend is writing it down. So you want to take just a little phrase at a time and see if you can actually put it back onto paper. You will notice where the gaps are very quickly, but look at your score and look back at your score and try this several times until you really can write down your phrase without a problem. I am not kidding you. When I once, I had a big concert coming up and I literally wrote out the entire thing. It took a while, but it was amazing. And my memory was rock solid after that. So writing down is sometimes really your best friend. One of your best friends, and I promise you in the performance, or especially in your early performances when you, a little bit unsure still, lacking a bit of confidence, one of your best friends is anchor notes. You're going to want to have, every couple of bars or whatever, you're going to want to have that note or that anchor in your piece that is there and it's coming. And even that if you've got an accompaniment or you're playing with orchestra or whatever it is, you are very sure of what's going on there. So if all else fails, you can kind of gun it for that particular anchor. These are really, they give you peace of mind in the end of the day. And they just, you can kind of like fake it till you make it for a few bars and then you just get back on the bandwagon. You'll be fine. I think so often we tend to think kind of like we have to have every single little note memorized, and there's definitely a place for that. And if you can, do that, especially in sections where you are a little bit unstable, it is sometimes useful to make sure that you really understand what notes are there, especially like at a slower tempo. Never ever try to memorize too fast, people. Don't do it. Don't do it. Always keep things slow until you got it. Then you're fine. What you really want to do is think more in gestures. So don't think, A, B, C, D, E, F, G. Rather think, it's a scale starting on A. It's a C major scale starting on A. Rather think of the gesture of it. This way your brain is not going to have to hold on to quite so much information, because it knows what a scale is, and it probably knows what thirds are, and maybe even sixes or octaves or whatever it is. Your brain kind of, has these patterns memorized already, so use that. With many pieces, your biggest challenge is kind of going to be creating sections for yourself and remembering the sort of larger structure of the piece. In your, classical stuff, Mozart, so on, just understanding the sonata form is going to help you a lot. Maybe understanding the keys you're working in, whether you're going to the dominant key, whether you're going to, or which key, from G major to D major, or whatever it is, will really help you to kind of solidify that memory and understand it. If you are struggling to memorize the structure, kind of getting confused with your sections, you may want to even create a little story. Or what I once did is create a kind of image of a house, and each section is a room in that house. Try and fill it with as many details and realistic details as possible. So maybe use your own home. This can be very helpful, so give it a try. A very important aspect of memorization, and I think particularly on the flute, because we cannot see our fingers, is the aural awareness. So you want to really be able to hear what you're about to play and not just kind of follow a score in your head or rely on muscle memory. I think with memorization, you want to really kind of build as many tools as you can to keep this in your memory. So you want to have muscle memory, you want to have mental imaging, you want to have the auditory kind of memory as well. Sometimes this is not possible because, sometimes we have to just play weird stuff. But to the best of your ability, listen to recordings with your score or without your score, really just to make sure that it's really in your ear. If you can kind of get a recording of yourself playing as well at some point, that's even better. But that you really have that auditory memory. It's great. Okay, and don't forget to memorize your accompaniment. I am going to admit this is a rookie mistake that I've fallen for many times, when I kind of rock up at my first rehearsal and I'm like, oh my goodness, I don't have a clue what I'm actually doing, because I haven't even memorized, the bar's rest, because I'm like, oh, it's just, I don't have nothing to memorize there. But you need to memorize those. Best bet is to really know what's going on in the accompaniment, so that you've actually listened to it so many times that you're playing and you can actually almost hear the accompaniment in your head. Best case scenario. Once again, it's not always possible. So sometimes we really just have to memorize, okay, I have 2 bars rest there, I have 3 bars rest there, or whatever it is. So don't forget to do it, please. If you have the opportunity to perform, several times from memory before, it's great idea. In fact, sometimes I actually just play it through in front of as many people as I can kind of pull into my practice room at the time. Sounds a bit creepy. It's not creepy, I promise. See if you can, really air it as much as you can before you actually have to perform it. Remember that confidence is a huge thing. So just building up confidence, reminding yourself you can do this, you've got this, you've done all the work, you've done all the prep, and trust in your memory. It's there, I promise. Cool. Guys, those are some tips and ideas that I have. There are so many great tips out there. All of our memories are different. We, function differently and we respond to different things. Let me know which tips work for you. Maybe you've got some other really great ideas. Let us know. Subscribe to our channel, find us on Facebook, Twitter, all of those things, and we'll see you next time. Happy practicing.